Okay, so I'm just going to give you an overview and update of what's been happening with this project. So this is the International Astronomical Union's Office of Astronomy for Development. So some of you might have heard of the International Astronomical Union. This is basically the big professional astronomical body in the world. There's over 10,000 professional astronomers that belong to this union, and they basically call the shots on astronomy in the world. They have the power to demote Pluto and stuff. So you know who they are. So what is this office and what role does it play? Well, this is the cover of the strategic plan of the International Astronomical Union. This was developed specifically to say, okay, we got this cool thing called astronomy. It inspires lots of people. It's really something that moves a lot of people. What impact can it have on the world? What impact can it have on humankind? And so this strategic plan was based on that. It's basically looking at how astronomy can impact on technology and skills, top right, science and research in the bottom, and also culture and society. Because astronomy includes big telescopes and the IT infrastructure required in handling big data, impacts heavily on technology and skills beyond astronomy. In terms of the science, there's math, biology, chemistry, physics. Astronomy impacts all these areas. But astronomy has this unique role as a science where it straddles also other aspects of society. The cultural aspects, the inspiration it gives, the perspective of the scale of the universe. Now, being this central point, how can we sort of use that and bridge all these areas and use astronomy as a tool to stimulate development? And that was basically what we set out for. We established this office, and we said, okay, let's just generalize it. What are we doing here? We're seeing how we can use astronomy for a better world. Okay, so what are the target areas? So in order to focus our efforts, we looked at the main areas that we know astronomy has an impact. So primary, secondary, tertiary education, basically the formal education system, research in various areas, not just within astronomy, but how it stimulates research into information technology, into biology, into other areas of science, but also in terms of science public outreach. How can astronomy have an impact on the scientific culture of a society? So, what is the basic structure that we're looking at here? You've got this Office of Astronomy for Development that's based in Cape Town in South Africa. That's overseen by a steering committee of 6 international people. Then we've established 3 task forces. This specifically looks at those areas that we want to target. One for universities and research, one for children in schools, and one for the public. These are groups of so-called experts from around the world who advise the office on activities in these areas. And then we've got regional coordinators. Basically, the idea is to set up regional nodes around the world. Similar offices that would specifically focus on a particular geographic or language region. So let's say we're looking at sub-Saharan Africa, or Latin America, or maybe there's different regions. But the idea is to have a local coordinator that would advise on how to engage with that particular region in terms of activities that would use astronomy for development. And so that can be geographical, or it can be language or culture. Everyone spoke about the Arab uprising. Which countries are those? It's basically a culture. You've got Portuguese-speaking countries all over the world. So regions based on geography or language. So what's the basic idea? So we set out with this broad vision, And the idea, the summary of the vision, is basically to take this really useful thing, astronomy, which is at the center of three major aspects of development, three aspects that contribute to development, and that's science, technology, and culture, and basically try to mobilize the funds and the people needed to realize those benefits. So this office will play the role of firstly implementing this plan of the International Astronomical Union, basically to provide a central source of strategic advice, coordination. There's lots of activities happening all over the world, but how are we ensuring that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts? How are we making sure that two people are not going to the same country and trying to develop something completely independently of each other? So that's the role there. But very importantly, it's to try and raise the funding and the infrastructure that will be needed to realize this, and then special projects wherever necessary. Small team. The idea is to have just a small coordinating body, and then you have these regional nodes. So just 3 staff members at the office, and then space for interns and volunteers based in Cape Town. So what's been happening, everything got going basically early 2011, where we had Minister Panda, this is the Minister of Science and Technology in South Africa, launching this office, setting up all our office infrastructure, and then calling out to volunteers. Basically looking at people who are willing to contribute their skills, their time towards using astronomy for development. So looking through the IU membership, spreading the word that this office is in existence around the world, and we've got over about 400 volunteers at the moment who have signed on to this and saying, okay, you can call on us if you need help in particular areas. This is a basic spread of where the volunteers are based around the world, but also they've come from different areas of interest. So someone, an astronomer might say, I'm really interested in teacher training, but I'm also interested in giving public lectures or something like that. And so there's a lot of resources now that we have available in terms of people, but also it's to translate that into actual projects and activities. So at the end of December, we had a big international workshop in Cape Town, and that basically shaped our way forward in terms of how we go about setting up these task forces and the regional nodes. We've established several collaborative programs and grants that we've been working with in the past, and now previous activities of the IU have come into the OAD for us to manage. This is the Teaching Astronomy for Development program. That was a historical program of the IU. There's an agreement with the Royal Astronomical Society in the UK for experts from the UK to travel around the world. Something relevant to experts based in the Netherlands is that there's an agreement with NBO here, where experts based in the Netherlands will be given a grant to travel to, let's say, developing countries to give talks, lectures, things like that. We've worked together with Microsoft Research. This is not Microsoft itself, but Microsoft Research, in terms of a software called Worldwide Telescope, which is used as an outreach tool for teachers. There's a program that we're working on at the moment with the University of Uppsala in Sweden, where we're looking at training physics lecturers who haven't had exposure to astronomy to use the data-heavy parts of astronomy to teach computational physics within universities, and use that as a way of introducing astronomy into physics departments. And a pilot will be run amongst historically black universities in South Africa. And then we coordinated the International School for Young Astronomers, which is held in Cape Town in February. We're currently busy with the International Center for Theoretical Physics to establish a whole suite of activities looking at workshops, travel grants, basically activities for global activities that will be in the spirit of astronomy for development, and that should be launched within the next few weeks. So some projects, pilot projects that we've been coordinating. Everyone knows of the transit of Venus that happened recently. We've been trying to consolidate experiences from around the world. This has been sort of suggested by many people, you know, how do we know what happened where? And so we've taken that on. You can see a map of various reports coming from around the world on the OAD website. We've gotten involved with something called a Science Hack Day, where we look at people getting together and putting together some tool. So hacking has a negative connotation for historical purposes, maybe, but hacking is basically playing. It's trying to program things, trying to use your coding skills to develop some tool, usually a software tool that can be used for science, for education, for development. And so we've been getting involved with various hacking communities in terms of how do you hack for development? How do you use the skills that, especially amongst astronomers, programming skills are an essential part nowadays of research. How can that be used for development? I mentioned the Worldwide Telescope workshop. This was to look at the applicability of the software as a teaching tool in developing countries. And we've also been looking at the development of a cost-efficient setup where you have a small telescope and a small instrument, either a CCD camera, a photometer, or a spectrograph, that can be used in physics departments as a tool for teaching experimental physics and data processing. The other major project that we've been working on is the establishment of regional nodes that I mentioned around the world. Basically, we've sent out a call early this year. We've had a number of expressions of interest, 14 full proposals that came through. This is a very high-level project within the IAU. We've got the President, General Secretary sitting on the selection committee, and we're currently negotiating for the first few regional nodes to be established around the world. And we should finalize that in time for the General Assembly, which happens next month. The establishment of the task forces took place soon after this big workshop that we had. This task forces are important groups. It's basically to advise on each of the different areas that we're targeting. The selection was done also by this committee, high-level committee within the IAU, and was launched in April this year. Just to give you a feel for it, the one task force is led by Ed Guinan, who has years of experience working with the IAU and traveling around the world looking at stimulating astronomy at university level in developing countries. The task force in children's schools, well, everyone knows Pedro here. He's got loads of experience in terms of education and outreach in astronomy. And the idea is to have a spread of experience from around the world in each of the task forces. The task force in the public is led by Ian Robson, who's basically led the IAU's commission on communicating astronomy with the public during the big International Year of Astronomy. He comes with loads of experience in this. And so with that, we've been keeping ourselves busy. Next month, I mentioned, is this is this IAU General Assembly. At that assembly, we'll have a special session on talking about astronomy for development. We'll have an exhibition area that will be used as well to coordinate activities for young astronomers and activities where you link up young astronomers with senior astronomers, what was traditionally called the consultation service within the IAU. We hope to have a call that goes out very soon from each of the task forces, where if you as an astronomer or as just someone keen in astronomy wants to implement a project relating to any of those areas, universities, schools or public, can apply for funding. We're busy establishing now the agreements with different regional nodes. We need some sort of volunteer management system that we're working on, and I'll show you a case of what could be used. What we're looking at, along with the calls for proposals, is to have an intensive fundraising drive, and then these three programs that I mentioned earlier, with the Royal Astronomical Society, NVO, and the International Science Program in Sweden. So, just to bring your attention to this, specifically relevant to the Netherlands, there's this. So the visiting experts program from the NVO is to have experts from the Netherlands traveling to different parts of the world. The closing date for applications is just passed in June, but I think it's still something that we need to make the community aware of for these opportunities. So where do we hope to be in 2015? We want to try and get these regional nodes active on all populated continents, I should say. We're going to get this funding cycle going with the task forces, so that anyone can apply for funds, look for opportunities to have their projects implemented within this framework. We want to try and secure funding for the next period of the existence of the Office of Astronomy for Development, and get a sustainable volunteer program going, where someone can request volunteers and we can match them with appropriate skills, and then basically try to ensure that whatever investments we make into this office, we can raise enough funds to balance that in the longer term. So I'll just round up with the example project that we want to try and use to address this huge need for a volunteer program. And this was developed at this meeting a few weeks ago, called Astronomy. And it's basically, so there's three people here, Pedro, Jan and Sarah, that contributed to this. But basically we're looking at developing a format where people can basically register. If someone wants to help out, contribute to astronomy for development activities, they can register by just filling in a quick form. This is not live, by the way. This is an example of what we're working on. You can update your whereabouts, so that you constantly have a feed on the website. It's just one web page. It's just a feed of where people are around the world, so that you can also coordinate if someone is going to let's say someone is traveling to Ethiopia, and there's a couple of projects in Ethiopia that could use an astronomer. We want to make those matches. Then, if there's a school that needs an astronomer to come and give a talk, or needs an engineer to come and work with them, then they could request what is it that they need. Do they need what language speakers do they need? What activities, that sort of thing. And then you can basically search this whole area. So the idea is to have a quick search. So we've sorted some of these volunteers that we've gotten, and this is basically a spread of the volunteers around the world. And so the idea is you could have something like this. So I want to know all the astronomers, all the volunteers that speak Spanish. Where are they based? So that filters out now everyone there, and then you can say, okay, let's see all those that speak Spanish. That's where they're based. But I want them to. Okay. Sorry. So speak Spanish, and they should be interested in something to do with teachers, so that I can contact them, and so that will filter that out, and then you can basically search, filter out all these volunteers, and all these boxes will be clickable, so you know who that person is and where they're from, and that sort of thing. So the idea is to have this sort of system that can match people from around the world and link them up with people who are able to help with projects. So that's basically the story for now.
Thank you, Karen.